Coffee Talk.
Okay, James, I'm sorry.
Every day we rise is a great day to be alive, and the Seven Cities Forums of Hampton Roads presents Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And I'm here. My name is James Slim Overton. I'm here with my co-hosts, Leah Drake Stitt and Thomas the Colonel Chapman. Good morning.
Good morning, James. Good morning.
Good morning.
We're here on this holiday, the first holiday of the June 10th. Of course, June 10th was yesterday, June 19th, but like other holidays, we celebrate on the Monday, and a lot of people are off, a lot of people are still working, but this is another holiday that we can celebrate as a part of our community. And went downtown. Portsmouth was alive over the weekend with the June 10th festivities. A lot of people, and I'm sure a lot of people came from out of town, so that was good to see that still, with all the negative press that we've been getting over the last few months, people realize that Portsmouth is a place to be in certain occasions. So no different from any other place around Hampton Roads and throughout the country. All right, so we're here. We have a special guest this morning, and Leah will introduce that special guest we have.
Okay. And before I introduce our special guest, I would just like to say congratulations to all of the 2022 graduates from all of the high schools all over Portsmouth. You made it in spite of the pandemic. COVID did not keep you from graduating. So congratulations to each of you, and we wish you Godspeed. And we know that you're on to bigger and better things in your life. So congratulations, graduates. Well,
and Leah, I'd like to say, watching I See Norcom graduation, it was good to see the choir singing that hit "Ain't No Stopping Us Now."
Ain't no stopping us, and they had the movements too. You notice they had the movements while they were doing it. You know,
everything. Yeah, they really rocked it out that night.
Yeah, they rocked it out. So it
was funny.
Great.
When the guy started, when the lead singer started, he said, "And this is for you old schoolers too."
But you know, that was my baby. That was one of my Sankofa babies.
Yeah.
Devontae.
Yeah, you probably told him to say that. Did you tell him to say that?
Yeah, Devontae Melton. He did a great job. Joe Harmon is doing an amazing job with that choir at I.C. Norcom High School. He's really trying to conjure up Melvin and Lewis. He's bringing them back into the house. So
yes. All right, let's get to our guest.
Yes, our guest today. I am excited to present to you our guest today, Mylira Green. And you know, for so long I was saying, I looked at my phone, Mylira, and I had it malaria. Okay, so that's why. So Mylira Green. Mylira Green is she has a company called M Green Enterprises, which provides the world with preventative services to lower the number of individuals in mental health facilities while helping individuals grow from a caterpillar to a butterfly. She's known for providing psychotherapy, confidence coaching, healing sessions, and mental health support through transformative speeches, trainings, and workshops. And you can go on her page and you can see many of the workshops she's been involved in. You can go on her Facebook page. There's no better time, she says, than now to educate people on the role one's mental health has on their outlook on life. She services high-profile clients who are tired of putting on a face because of the influential roles they play. She works with individuals whose childhood trauma influences their ability to fully show up in their days because they are anchored in the hell of today. The mental health professions lack diversity and visual representation in the field, and being visual, and she's very visual, it allows underrepresented communities to feel their voice, that their voices are heard. So Mylira, we are just so excited to have you here. I heard you speak at the Oaks conference and I said, oh my goodness, she is dynamic. I really like this young lady. But welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk on behalf of Slim and the Colonel. Welcome to Portsmouth Coffee Talk, Mylira.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here this morning.
And I wanted to tell you, Ernestine Duncan, she's our frequent guest here to talk about mental health issues. She's on right now. So she's on listening to you. So she's, yes. So
So that's definitely a blessing. Grand Rising, Dr. Duncan.
Yes, yes. So, tell us how you got involved in the mental health field.
Absolutely. So for me, growing up, I wasn't viewed as someone who needed mental health support. I say that because I had a 2-parent household. We were upper middle class. My dad worked for the government. My mom was a teacher. I did all the activities underneath the sun. So I did marching band. I went to Grove Baptist Church where I was on the step team, the choir, you name it, I was doing it. However, I had trauma that I experienced. So because on the outside, it did not look like my life could breed trauma, on the inside, I was quietly dying. So I tell people, for me to be exposed to sexual things at 3 years old and struggle with that throughout my life, and then to be sexually assaulted at 16, it threw me into a really bad depression. So my senior year, I did not know what I wanted to do with my life. And my mom was like, baby girl, you have too much promise just to not know what's happening. So she helped me with the college process. And I ended up at Norfolk State. And one of my mentors, Otilia Ponton Reed, or most of us know her as Miss Peaches, she was a social worker. So my mom said, well, why don't you just try social work? And I said, I don't care what I do. I just know I want to go to school. And I ended up going to Norfolk State University, Ethel Armstrong School of Social Work. And that's where I found me, but it was a career. So although I had a bunch of trauma, I promised myself at 17 when I almost took my life to be CPR to other people's goals, like my dad was CPR to mine. And I threw myself in my schoolwork. So to get out of my depression, to get out of my trauma, I literally said, you know what, I'm going to learn how to not just heal myself, but help other people heal. And I started going to therapy myself, which was really, really helpful. And I just took off from there because I said, hey, if other people didn't even think that I was experiencing that, who else is out here that didn't have someone to help them and be a voice and actually educate? Like, if you have a brain, you have a mental health. It's not a certain socioeconomic status. It's not a certain race. It's not a certain look. Anybody can experience a form of trauma. So I've gone on that track to provide trauma-informed care. And that's kind of how I stumbled into it. So I turned my pain into purpose.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Wonderful.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought up that part and you started with the part of being at Norfolk State or being in college in general and having those issues, because we've talked about that here often. And it's good for people to know that college students, and you brought, I think Dr. Duncan talked one time, a lot of students come to college and they bring those issues with them. And you just explained that that's an issue you brought with you. And I'm glad. But that kind of took you into the work you do now, where you're helping people. But I like the comment you made that I watched sometime. You say, even the clinicians, clinicians to get help,
That's right.
and never heard anybody say that, but, because you all listen to so much. So, and I said that to say, I wanted to say also that when you do your talks, you communicate in a way that anybody sitting out there in the audience, if they're PhDs or if they're from the hood or they're from any walks of life, they can understand what you're trying to communicate. Was that a conscious effort that you made or you decided to do, so everybody, because sometimes some people will have those talks and they lose some people, just the language they use, their education. And but you kind of, communicate in a way where everybody can really get it.
Well, I would say for me, my saying is you can never feed a person if you've never been hungry. So the thing that really helps me out is I don't just have the education. I don't just have the certifications. I don't just have the fact I'm working on my PhD, and all these great accolades are amazing. But what I bring is the experience. And I know what it feels like to be in that pain. I know what it feels like to be in that darkness. Like even now I tell people I'm a therapist, but I have a therapist, not just because I want to say I go to therapy, but no, I still have to deal with my PTSD symptoms. I still have moments of depression. I still have suicidal thoughts on a daily, you know? So when I speak from experience, but with the knowledge of the expertise of how to pull you out. And I remember when I first started out and people started to hear me talk or share my story, I would get things like, you a little too transparent. What will happen if they take your license away, or things like that? And I said, at the end of the day, what God got for me is what he has for me. So if I say something and the board of social work says, Mylira, we're going to pull your license, I'm like, God is still going to make sure that I'm still able to bless and touch people. So for me, it's more of being able to marry my expertise with my experience and communicate in a way that can really serve people. And I started out working with youth. So because when you work with youth, you got to kind of tailor your messages anyway. So that is, I think, what kind of really helped me now that I'm working more with adults and in the public and with people of influence, is that in order for me to communicate with a young person, I had to change the terminology. I had to change some of the things that I said. So I've learned how to tell visual stories so people can actually see and hear what I'm trying to convey. And it kind of just morphed this beautiful thing that I give honor to God to do that. Because I think when I'm speaking, it's the Holy Spirit, it's not me. There's a lot of times I tell people when I'm talking, make sure you have pen and paper, because I'm not going to remember what I said. 9 out of 10, I probably didn't write that speech until 5 minutes before I got up. Like God will tell me the title of it and 3 key points. And when I'm up there, he just speaks. So for me, I literally rely on the marriage of the expertise with my experience, and then God, and allow him to just be him in my life so that it can help other people.
Wow.
Wow, yes.
That's truly amazing. And I had that experience at the conference, because I was kind of zoned out. And then when you started speaking, I said, oh my goodness, she's got something here, and you caught my attention and held me the entire time, And that's when I came back and told James, I said, James, we have to get her on the show, because you're really able to pinpoint. I mean, because then we were talking about reentry, we were talking about people behind bars, and the information that you gave was just so enlightening, to see such a young person to come up and to share the information that you share. It really touched my heart, and I know all of the people in there, because you really caught the attention of the audience. But you do a lot with women as well. You do a
Yeah.
lot of programs with women. Share with us some of the programs you've done with women.
So my baby that I have is called the Metamorphosis Experience. And I breed my title as the confidence coach. And I tell people anything that I give is typically because I need it.
Mm-hmm.
So I created a program that I needed, so every day I can pour into myself, right? And what it was created for is to help women become unstuck and motivated to confidently reach their goals while owning their gifts. And it was birthed because I kept getting this question, especially from people who are in my support system, that I do things a little differently. So they call me an overachiever, if you will. And what kept happening was I was like trying to explain to people, how can I still be a wife? How can I still be a mom, but yet still live out my God-given purpose? And I said, I know I'm not the only one that is struggling to still play all the roles, but be confident in my own purpose. And I end up meeting a gentleman that's in California. His name is Sid Scott. So shout out to Sid, who was like, you know what, Mylira, I know you have something in you. I'm just going to work with you. And we put together this 6 program. So the ladies walk through 6 weeks of me literally stripping you down from what the world has told you should be, and growing the confidence to who you are. So we acknowledge the truth, which is no 2 people are the same. So your journey is supposed to be different than someone else's. We learn what your differences are. So what you actually bring to the table, what is unique to you. Because I look at life like a puzzle piece. When you see the puzzle, you see the beautiful big picture, but what pour it out, it's a bunch of pieces that look exactly the same. But once you start putting it down, you realize there's only one specific space for that piece. And that's who we are. There's one thing that we were born with purpose to do. Once you know your differences, we go over your strengths. So what are the things that you can actually rely on that helps you bring those differences to the forefront? We talk about what are your weaknesses, not in the sense of tearing you down, but your weaknesses is what allows for you to actually open up to tangible relationships. You're not going to open up to a tangible relationship if you don't actually see the place for it. And then the last week, we talk about just really you owning who you really are. And the beauty of it is I've had people of all walks of life take this program. Many of them have gone to create businesses. They're authors now. There are women out here that have nonprofits, or they've had, gained the confidence to have children, get married. It's so beautiful. And recently I've added the Kings component. So I have started working with men. So we had two gentlemen in Texas, one here in Virginia. And I actually, which is so exciting to me, I actually graduated a king in Nigeria recently this week who went through the program. And I said, that's my way of giving back, because when you work with those countries, their currency is different. I said, you know what, but God, I want to be able to help people from our motherland country. So I was able to graduate him. And it was amazing to be able to understand that culture and pour in. And even now I've shifted a lot spiritually. Like God is really my anchor. So being able to meet people around the world who that's also their anchor, and building their confidence in who God has created them to be is what that program is specifically for. And then I do a lot of speaking. So anything dealing with sexual abuse and assault, infant loss and death, trauma, women issues, women being able to still live out their purpose. I talk about the footprint in the sand. We talk about how when you see the footprints and then you don't see them no more, that's when Jesus is carrying you. But I like to take it a step. Like, yes, Jesus is carrying you. But if you are a mom, let's say you go to Virginia Beach, right? And you tell your kids, I'm going to the bathroom. You wait 5 minutes. Who else got to go to the bathroom? Your kids normally say, no, I'm going to stay here. By the time you get up to the bathroom, what do your kids want to do? And I use that visual because if we don't go and chase our purpose, because there's a lot of moms and women that stop living when they have kids. What footprints is your kids going to be able to follow if you don't go your purpose? So yeah, stop and give all your energy and all your time to them. But if you stop living your purpose, they don't have any guide. They don't know what direction to go in. So I know that was a long answer, but that's what I do with women. I've branched out to working with men as well, and creating a safe space so that they don't have to be Superman. They can take their cape off. They can talk about their mental health. They can talk about some of their challenges. They can talk about how us as women don't listen to them sometimes. Like I divide that space, and now we have a community of us coming together.
And how does one participate in the program?
So you can sign up via my website, which is www.myliratransforms.com. Or if you are connected to me personally, I am still personable. So if you ever reach out to anything, it is me. I don't have an assistant yet. So just being able to reach out and tell me that you're interested, and we'll have like a discovery session so I can see what service are you really looking for. And then we get started.
Wow. And Colonel, I was going to ask another question.
Yes. I was listening to her, go on, and I was just captivated by it. But yes. I need to put this one piece in there first, is that, and put our disclaimer out there, is the views listed on this program are those of the host and the guests, and not of the radio station. Get that through first, so we don't go to Facebook jail or FCC comes get us or whatever. Then the other piece is, for those who are out there, if you like what you're seeing on this program, we need your support. And if you'd like to send an honorarium or a donation, you can send it to Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And if Leah can move to one side, you'll see how to spell Portsmouth Coffee Talk. And it's P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia 23707. So now that I've done,
Colonel, let me. We have a Cash App, which is $PCT 1220. $PCT 1220. And you can also donate on Zelle to portsmouthcoffeetalk@gmail.com.
Very
Yes.
good.
Appreciate your support.
Yes, and thank you for your support now and in the future. And then, so the other things I'd like to hit while I have the mic is that for the new graduates that just walk across the stage, you have a responsibility, because if you've turned 18, you need to register to vote. Because one, your future freedoms are at stake, and our democracy is at stake, and it's coming on the ballot, each ballot in 2022, 24, and beyond. Because if you want people to represent you, even at the local level and to the state level and to the national level, you need to have a say-so, because the Confederates out there are trying to take back, as we celebrate this holiday of Juneteenth, they want to return us back to the days, and you can look in the history books that they're trying to rewrite and erase. There's always that possibility, never say never, of going back to some pseudo slavery days. And so I'll say that. And so now that I brought up the slavery word, we have a backdoor slavery system that exists today. As Leah talked about the reentry programs, slavery exists in our prison complex, because across the nation, those men and women are put out there to work for the man, and in those industrial complexes to manufacture goods, and they get paid each in each municipality or in the state jails, and some in the federal, they are paid to be there, housed. And so people make money for housing us, locking us for days. And then once you're in the system, then almost your life is, you're a second-class system, a citizen when you get out. Matter of fact, you don't get your citizenship back, because if you get a felony, you don't get your right to vote, and your security clearance is gone. And then so it's a downward trend from there. And so we can discuss that if you'd like to go that, and that's an interesting concept by itself. But our guest talked about about nursing professional licensure for behavioral health or social work, or anybody in the healthcare. And it's interesting, if you look at the statistics for psychiatrists have one of the highest suicide rates out there. Because if I was a psychiatrist or anybody in the psychiatric fields, nursing or whatever, social work, if I seek help, then I put my life style and my livelihood at risk. And so that is a quirk in our licensure board. Am I correct?
No, you are correct. And it's very sad to be completely transparent with you, because I am very transparent and I hear it all the time. Again, are you afraid about your license? And I tell people no, because at the end of the day, I'm going to seek help. And very transparent last week. I said, even up until last week, I was put on a safety plan. What does that mean? That means that my therapist was concerned that I was too suicidal, that if I had a plan, she gave me all the things to do, which is what I'll do for my clients, right? And what someone will say is, well, don't share that. But why not? Like, people need to understand that I'm human as well. And the reason why I can help you is because I take the steps that I need to maintain my own mental health. There's too many people in the mental health world and the health profession in general that don't seek help, because like you said, that they're afraid for their license to be taken away, but yet they take their life at their hands. It's the same way people of influence are afraid to get help because they don't want people to know their business. They don't want stuff to spill out. And that's I've said I want to seek people who are high influence, that are our politicians, our mayors, our governors, our senators, our people of Hollywood, the actors, the actress, the song people, because at the end of the day, you are the ones that are making decisions for the mass population. But what has been so difficult is, again, that stigma of, if I tell someone I need help, no, I'm going to lose my level of influence. But because of my own experience, I've learned it's been the opposite. When people get me to come speak, it's because they're saying, like, we heard you share your pain, but how you're still pressing through. Come speak, because there's people that's in their pain that you can help bring through. So for me, like I said, there's been moments where I have woken up and I said, you know what? That live may get my license taken away. Not because being unethical, not because I'm not helping people, but just because people are going to say, how can she help people if she's going through her own stuff? And I literally believe if it gets that way, God is going to still take care of me. So to those doctors and nurses and therapists and people who are helping other people, please go get help and find someone who is a therapist like mine that's not going to judge you, that's not going to go and report you the first thing, that they're going to really hold that confidentiality. Because I have heard of clinicians that's gone and talked to a therapist, and then now CPS is involved just because they share some of their challenges with their kids, or therapists and doctors that came in and talked about their mental health, and now their license is on the line because they shared those spaces. So my challenge is for us who do work with profession, let's not throw that person out. Now, if it is something that's a big safety concern, or you really think they did something, by all means. But if they're just sharing with you their life, help them with their life so that continue to help other people with their lives and not bleed on people or take their own. So, yeah.
So we're getting ready to transition. We got 4 minutes too. So you want to, Slim, you want to talk about the transition, and then I got a point of order here for you.
Okay. We'll be transitioning off the radio, but we'll still be on Facebook Live at 7 o'clock. So we want to thank all the listeners on WGPL 1350 AM on your dial. And we want the listeners that are on Facebook Live to continue to stay with us, because we still have some information we like to share, important information we like to share with you, along with our guests, our special guests. Right, Colonel?
All right, yes. And so I am not a behavioral health specialist, but I'm a retired Army nurse. But in nursing, we do listen. And then so as I listen to you speak, and you talk about how can people tell you, how can you help people when you're going through your own stuff? And then so I will boil that down for those folks to say, I am, or you are going through, or having or talking about the lived experiences of life that everybody goes through. And so my experiences, even in the military, it's only the tip of the iceberg of what is being treated out there with the military. We have higher and higher, the suicide rates go higher and higher. And we read about on the aircraft carrier, they had 8 or 9 deaths or suicides and stuff like that. And then the Navy will ship some, they'll have a quick stand down and go through and have the crew looks at some slides, and they'll say, we're ready to go. And I call it BS training, or check the box training, and then we move on. And then so one of the other problems to that is that if you seek behavioral health while you're in growing your career, you get labeled, and your career is basically done. We've had we've had 1 or 2 generals that on their way out, they talk about their behavioral health, but they got their retirement papers in. And so now they try to speak up. And I says, you might as well kept it quiet, because you have no credibility. And so I always shake my head about what we do for behavioral health in our military, because they had these young kids, and when I always lectured, I says, and everybody is a kid to me, because regardless of your rank, if I'm 1 day older than you, you're a kid to me, regardless of your rank. And you may have stars on you, but you're still a kid to me.
Mhm.
So I could talk to you the way I'm going to talk to everybody else. So to get that help, because one, we have PTSD from over 2 decades of persistent war, and with that, with the op tempo out there trying to get ready for war, that leads to trauma by itself, just with speeding up of things. And you have the racial discrimination, especially that was unleashed during the last 4 years of this last Confederate traitor that was in the Oval Office, that allowed a lot of things to come out. And I see you shaking your head there, Slim. So yes, I'm gonna shut this down in a minute. And then the other thing is the sexual assaults that go unreported. It's because women do not want to, even though the regulations are out there, the regulations are against them when I come out to accuse a superior of a sexual assault. And I have to go into the system and the way the system is made there. So I said a lot there.
Well, I
So
was
what say you?
I was gonna say, as you were talking, I think military has done well recently is they allow for the military to see outside clinicians. So that is my specialty right now. As a psychotherapist, I work with the military population at a local private practice. So that allows for them to have a little bit more privacy, because when they come to us, we don't necessarily have to report what's going on to their commander or to anybody, and they can let us know in confidence what they're doing, because we don't have to hold them to that same standard. And then we're able to provide trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy to those younger military personnel, ages 26 and under, who have had sexual assault. They may not report it to someone, but they can come in and get TFCBT with me, where I can actually walk them through healing so then they can go back to work. Or we'll have people who are on limited duty that actually get an intensive therapy, whether we're doing cognitive processing therapy or we're doing cognitive behavioral therapy. So I think that is one thing that they have done well, is opening up to outsiders, so that we in military life. So you're not going to get some of those questions and answers and things like if you were to go on the base. So for me, working with the military, I have gotten the privilege to working with the younger people who just got on, that may be on limited duty, or they're being discharged honorably because they do have PTSD. Or I've had the grander scheme of things. I've had 30-year people who served, and now they're coming out and trying to get acclimated to life again, and I work with them. So I will say that if the military can allow for more people who don't have a military background work with the military, is helpful, because it gives them a clean slate without someone judging them or telling them that you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z, because we really don't know the rules and regulations that they have, unless of course it's something special that they're sent to and we have to do reports, but most of them are voluntary, which makes it a better process. And what I will say is the military needs to bring outside people to train, because again, suicide is not just a spin. It's not just something that somebody just woke up one morning and say, hey, I'm ready to kill myself. A lot of the times it's a buildup. There's different things that occur, and then you have that last thing and say, I can't do it anymore. So if they have someone who's actually an expert in that comes in and train, I think that will even do them even more justice, bringing outsider mental health professionals that's actually trained in that area, not just someone who slapped together a training to say, hey, we did this training, but someone who actually knows the knowledge. And that's something that I've wanted to do. But again, it's a lot of red tape that comes with that space of trying to get on and trying to help and all that. So I think they're making small strides. keep them, but if
Yeah.
we can start bringing those outside trainings or bring, them into the community so that they can get off of the base so that they can live and do those things, I think we will be even further, especially in the Hampton Roads community. We have the biggest naval base, but yet those resources aren't really great. Or when they are retiring, some people don't know what's next, So there's a lot of things the military can do better, but I do think right now they're trying to do little at a time. And I'm just grateful to be a part of that little at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So just to move a little bit in another direction, but the stigma still in the Black community, because you still have those who say what happens in the home, stay in the home, leave it in the home, or you take it to the church to someone who may not be qualified as a therapist. They may be good at pastoring, but they're not qualified as a therapist. With this taking place, as well as the number of younger Black people who are committing suicide, what are your thoughts?
So all of this stems from slavery. And I know a lot of us like to say, but we were kings and queens before that. And then you have other people that's like, well, we sold ourselves. You're going to have a bunch of stories to make the pain normalized. We got to stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about slavery, we were not taught to be human beings. We were not taught to be family. We were not taught to be support to our communities. We were taught to be servants. So when you woke up, from the moment that you opened your eyes to the moment that you went to bed, you were a servant. Whatever someone needed you to do or told you to do, that's what you did. In the midst of being a servant, you have the natural inkling to be a family. So now you're having the jumping of the broom because we couldn't get married. You had the fact that in order for them to populate said plantation, you had to get pregnant. So they were okay with that. So then they will make sure that you kept producing until they didn't need you to produce anymore. Now they separated the families, or they didn't have a man in front of the family so that you can know I'm still the boss. So this may be your husband, but I'm going to rape your husband in front of you and your kids so you know to stay in line. Or I'm going to take your male child and take them somewhere else so you know I am still in control. Now we go freedom. We're celebrating Juneteenth. Now we're all free. We're excited, blah, blah, blah. But then the New Deal happens. What the New Deal brought in was this mindset of no man in the house rule.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. I'm going to provide you housing, but my one rule is I know that you need a kid in order to get this housing, which means there was a male partner involved, but he can't stay with you. So then social workers were night workers. So we will come randomly after midnight to 6 o'clock because just in case you were slipping and you let him stay over, if there was an extra toothbrush, an extra brush, a male shoes, a smell of a cologne, both you and your family was being kicked out of the home.
Mm-hmm.
So then if I need housing, you telling me I can't be with this guy. So where is this guy supposed to do? He gonna have multiple baby mamas, and that's the real fact. Because at least I know social worker just came to her house last week, so they not gonna mess with her for a couple weeks. So I'm gonna go stay with her. Then I'm gonna go to my other baby mama and I'm gonna stay with her. Because then I can't stay with my mama because my mama also in housing and she can't have no male in the house. After I turn 18, I gotta get out. And then when we go to our actual Black families who were well off, who became the middle class families, right? Now we're finally a family that we can decide what our family looks like. So you bet not tell about granddaddy touching you because we're a family now.
Mm-hmm.
It's worse staying a family than not being a family because we just got our family. We're not going to talk about aunt and uncle who touched you, or aunt and uncle who did something to you or abused you, or your parents abused you, because we're a family now. And it's worth, if we can let them abuse us, then we better be quiet about our own abuse because now we're a family. So now this mindset is perpetuated because I want to be in control of this family that I now have. So now these generational patterns is what I call them, not curses. These generational patterns that are intentionally continued because we don't want for the family to be broken down. But yet now my generation, who is the millennials, we get a bad rep because we are the radicals to say, no, we're going to have a real family. So I'm not going to deal with your toxicness. You're not going to continue to bring me down or put your hands on me or tell me I can't do anything. So I'd rather you not be my family at all and me create my own. Now we have a totally different issue and problem because people don't want to address. You can't just do any old thing to somebody just because you my mama, my daddy, my granddaddy, grandma. Like, it's a bigger psyche thing. So if people actually start taking their mental health seriously and getting therapy, going to conferences, our pastors understanding mental health and being able to say that I can have a therapist and Jesus at the same time.
Amen.
Being able to have that, and churches bring in mental health professionals, hire on a counselor so that your people in your church can actually have that, have conferences about mental health, you know, having ministers that do have a mental health background and being open. At the end of the day, one thing I will tell you is that churches are supposed to be the hospital for sick souls,
Mm-hmm.
people that already got it together.
Mm-hmm.
People are coming into your church, giving them that opportunity and resources to really get healed, not shun them. I'm someone who literally just stepped back into church. I walked away for like 4 years after being a licensed minister and everything. Why? Because of people hurt. Where people,
Church hurt is the worst hurt.
right. You know, people telling me don't share my testimony because it was a little too much. But I'm like, but if I was exposed to sexual things at 3 years old, lost my virginity at 13, raped at 16, when I'm talking to youth, they need to know and have a safe space to talk about it. No, don't talk about those things. So I think one thing that the church can do is definitely listen to scripture, but also understand scripture. So then when you're actually helping the youth, you're helping them and not condemning them. And then when I went to church this past week, because I just joined the church, he called it the D church. He said a lot of people aren't not saved. They just don't want to come to church because of the things that people have done to them in the church, or they have the resources. So if we can, in our community, stop the note, you know, we're not going to talk about what happens in this house, all that. We have a choice now that we can be family. We get to redefine what that means. And then for the church, providing the resources for people mental health and understanding that everything is not the devil. Sometimes it's just life. Life is happening and people don't know how to process certain things. So have people on your staff or in your congregation that can really help people become their full holistic self while marrying God in there as well. Like, God is in everything, but you got to be able to have the right people to know how to communicate in a way that's really going to heal your congregation.
Well, truth to power. And Colonel, your commentary and the way you set up questions creates very informative answers from our guests. So keep it up.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to, you know, you also, in the same vein of talking family, you know, Wednesday, my wife and I would be celebrating 40 years of marriage. And I thank you. And I noticed in looking over things that you do, you and your husband had a podcast where that transparency you talk about continued, as far as you and your husband talking about your marriage and you know, sort of helping people to navigate through theirs. And it was easy for them to associate with you or us because we all go through some things in marriage. It's not all peaches and cream. We have to know that going in, and only the strong survive. But talk about that podcast you had and what you all were trying to do as a couple, you know, as far as helping other couples, because that's a part of what you do as well.
Yeah, so we have the Culture Podcast that's ran through the Floor is Yours Podcast LLC. And my husband and I, we come on live every other Wednesday. So that specifically episode that you're talking about is we were talking about mental health. And the biggest thing when it comes to mental health is people have to understand that when you get married, you're bringing two minds to the table, not just one. And it's not about having one married mind. It's about, no, like you have your own experiences, your own traumas and things like that. And one thing about our podcast is it's easy as a therapist to come on and give you a bunch of statistics, what percentage, what number, what things, but we wanted to give you something very tangible. And what we wanted to express to people is how we remain married when someone has an actual mental health. Because for me, like I said, because of my trauma, I still have depressive symptoms. I still have my PTSD from being raped and just different things I've experienced. So the conversation was, how does he as a spouse deal with someone that has mental health challenges that also work in mental health, and how he had his own experience and how I was able to put myself to the side. There's times where a wife has to step aside and best friends show up, because I have to understand the same way I've had my traumas and I deal and I move in certain ways, so does my spouse. And now that we're 8 years in and we're both learning who we are post traumas, that's a different person that's coming to the table. So it's easy for you to separate apart if you don't communicate and talk. So that's what the show was really about, like not being afraid to change, not throwing in the towel at the first sign of someone's different, but no, acknowledging like, hey, we're at a different space. These are some challenges that's come up. We're going to communicate about those hard things so that we don't commit adultery. Like we're going to talk about, hey, I actually find that person attractive. Why? Because I spent all my time with this person. Okay, that means we need to actually have a conversation and talk about how we shifted and changed. So for us, it's being able to have other people see that you can be a young Black couple and still make it, that you can have challenges, but you have to choose and decide to do it again. So we actually did a vow renewal at 8 years, because it was like, hey, we're 8 years in, we're totally completely different than the babies that we were when we got married at our early 20s. You know, we're parents now, we have careers. Who are you? And it's okay to say, I don't know you anymore, and not be afraid of that, and be able to say, no, like you're a totally different person. I'm a totally different person, but I still love you. Now I want to like you. Like at the end of the day, we tell each other, I can love you all day, but if I don't like you, then we know that we're doing something wrong. So I actually take time to learn you so I can like you. What do you like doing? Are you happy in your career? How can we support each other? How is parenting more hood than parent? Like being able to have those conversations so that we can make it last forever and help other people push through their traumas, push through their past, and realizing that your spouse is not going to be everything to you. When you understand that, then you won't get them to fill the voids. But y'all will go on a journey together to discover what coping strategies you need separately and together to become the best versions of yourself, not just for the marriage, but for your kids as well. Because the worst thing you can do in a marriage is not invest in the marriage because you're a parent, not invest in the marriage because you're a business owner, not invest in the marriage because you're a career. Because eventually those kids are going to grow and you're going to be empty nesters. And I will hate for 20 years down the line, I look at my husband, I say, dude, who are you? No, I'm out for you the same way that I do for everybody else.
A lot of concepts. A lot of interesting concepts.
I think you just saved a lot of marriages there. Just going real with it, because you have to go into it with the reality of it's not going to be a fairy tale the rest of their life. You know, that wedding and planning for it, that's the fairy tale part, the beginning, but you have to, you know, take it all the way through. And once those two people come together, that's the start of a family. Yeah. And what you do as the head of the family affects everybody under you. Even if you break up, you have to also realize that you are still, you know, stewards of those children that you bring into this world. So, you know.
Now, how does one get to have you as a coach?
So I like to be personable. So when I'm meeting a person, I want you to tell me what it is that I can assist you with. That's number one. And a lot of people ask me, well, can I just do one-on-one coaching with you? I tell them, no, you have to go through my metamorphosis experience first. Why? Because everybody coaches differently. But when you're making your goals, I'm really big on, you got to be intentional when you create all these vision plans and these plans over your life. Because if you don't deal with your trauma, then what you're doing essentially is you're putting your trauma on that vision board. I'm going to saying that's opposite to that, but my focus is the trauma. So guess what? The trauma is going to be what I'm going to live out, not this vision board. So when we're doing our coaching program, It's allowing you to really become who you are. So every goal that you make after that is really in who you are and not what the world told you you are. So that's when it comes to the coach. I have to do the 6-week program, and then we do that one-on-one space. But you can either just reach out to me personally. You can go again on my website, which is www.myliratransforms.com. And if you know of someone who is in a space of influence, because I am trying to get into Hollywood, and I tell people it's not for me to be a celebrity, but it's really because I really believe that we are what we listen to, what we watch, and what we read. So if I can get to the people that we're listening to, that we're watching, and that we're reading, and I can change their mindset and they're more sure of how they show up, then I can change those people that are watching them. So if I get to those spaces, or even locally, especially in the city of Portsmouth, I would love to get into the city hall and work with the mayor, work with the sheriff, work with the people actually making these decisions, and not to give them a space for me to judge them. Because one thing about Mylira, I will tell you, I do not watch the news. I know it's horrible. I don't know what's going on. I'm not researching the bad that's going on in the community. When I show up, I'm showing up pure. Like, you get me. So if I can work with the city of Portsmouth, their officials, do trainings, actually do my metamorphosis experience for them, heck, I would do it for a discounted price for the whole city of Portsmouth. If y'all want to take me for 6 weeks and your whole staff do that, I'm open to that, because I feel like that is what we need to really change our community. And so that leadership is sure of who they are, so that they're not in competition. I've seen people joking around that I noticed, like, well, I should just run for mayor, or I should just run for this, out of a joke. It's not a joke, it's people lie.
That's
So
right.
if I get with you to change your mindset so that you can understand that you hold people life and death in your hands, then that is how I get to coach. It's for people who really want to make change, who really want to make a difference, and tired of living small. Like, we all have a big God-given purpose that if we die without living it out, there's a problem that will remain forever because you didn't step up to be the solution to it. So that's how you can get me as a coach.
Oh, wonderful, girl. And we need you. We need you desperately. But Mylira, my thought too now is to, I'm spent a lot of time in the elementary schools and in the middle schools. And the children are, they've been through so much over the past 2 years. Many of these children have been exposed. They've seen people who've been killed on the street. These kids are taking care of their sisters and brothers. We expect them to come to school, sit down, be quiet, do what I tell you to do, but we don't deal with all the trauma that they're bringing with them to the classrooms. What do we do for our babies? Because if we don't start doing something with our babies now, because those middle school students I have to go and work with on Tuesdays, their mindset is just so far out there. It's scary. It's really scary to hear how they process things and what they see is right and what they see is wrong. But we got to start with the little ones in grade school. What are your thoughts on our babies?
So I have created a plan. I even presented it maybe 2 years ago. So before COVID even hit, so it's almost 3 years now. And I said, you know what we need is an actual outpatient space. So just like they have a guidance counselor, you actually need a therapist. So every like 6 weeks, that therapist will have a specific amount of students that they will walk them through brief therapy. So then let's say that kid gets suspended. I was going to start with a specific population. So if that kid gets suspended for 6 weeks straight, for 1 hour a week, you meet with a therapist. I rather you, instead of being suspended and go home and go back to the admin,
right.
That didn't help. Well, we actually have an out of school suspension space for that 10 days that you're in. Them 10 days you're seeing a therapist once a week, once a day, and you're actually in there with a out of school suspension person, which I know some school districts have incorporated, but you have that therapist there to really talk to that. When they go back into school 6 weeks after that, each week you have something else that's planned, so then they can graduate, change their mindset, and then go back into the classroom truly changed. That's number one. Two, if we can, for sixth graders and freshmen, instead of them having an elective that 9 out of 10 they really don't care about, you actually have mental health first aid class provided for that entire first year. Instead of us rushing through your mental health, you can have an actual teacher who teaches mental health first aid to your 6th graders and your freshmen, or in Portsmouth, it's going to be 7th graders and the freshmen.
Yes.
And being able to teach them what is mental health, how to address the signs, how to actually talk about it, and give them a safe space in class so that them and their classmates can start talking about it in a way that's actually going to make change. If we can have something like that in our schools, then we will see a decrease in the suicide rate. We will see a decrease in truancy. We will see a decrease because you will have the kids feel like they are worth it. Let's be real. Economy-wise, parents can't really parent. And I try to tell my parents this all the time. It's very easy for people to say, y'all just doing too much. No one asked you to have multiple jobs. No one asked you to try to pursue a business. No one asked you to go to school and go to this and try to grab this and grab that. But without it, nobody's looking at us. So then you have a spirit where our superiors, they will say, well, no one told you to have kids. So no, I'm not going to know to help you, or nobody's going to give you a break. Nobody asked you to be a parent, or these different things. So now you have this kid that have a parent, and we're talking about good parents here, because I know there's some parents that's not so good, but the good parents that's really trying, that don't have the time to pour into their kid. So when they go to school, all you got is what you have at school. And then the teachers are overwhelmed and trying to teach you. So imagine if we have a program where someone's specific focus is to give that kid attention, even if just an hour a week. You will and you will see a change. But guess what? They're not putting it in the budget. Or when they make these positions, they want you to have teacher experience. What teacher is being trained in mental health? So
Exactly.
I tried to get into the school system and these specialty different things. So like your behavior interventionalists or your mental health experts, but because you don't have teacher experience, they will give it to a teacher, which no slight, but that's not your specialty. So you're giving money, but the actual regulation that you have for these positions aren't for the qualified professional. So where I have an LCSW that's qualified to actually do the job, you want someone who's been in the classroom that you said can manage behavior, but it's still not helping. So we got to figure it out, what it looks like, a trial and error. Like I said, I don't mind testing out, but the funding has to be there. Like I said, I presented the program. They wanted it. I had an office at a local school and everything. But guess what? The expectation was to do a free 99. I got kids to take care of. So we're have people out here that want to help the schools, that want to provide the services. The schools have to be more diligent as putting it as a part of the budget and actually asking mental health professionals who need to do this job, and not just because we're education, I'm just going to pull a teacher to do this job when that teacher's not qualified to do it.
You know, and some of the behavior specialists that you see in the schools are not really qualified to work with these kids. I mean, they can take them out the class and sit them down and talk to them, but what guidance are they truly providing for these kids? You know, I just watch some of them sometimes and I say, where are they coming from? You know, how are they really giving guidance to these children so they can get from point A to point B? You know, you sit them down for a few minutes, but you're not giving them what they need. They go back into the classroom and they're doing the very same thing they were doing before you took them out of the classroom.
So I do training with that now. So a lot of the community-based programs, I'm going to tell you, the ones that I've met really do have a heart to make a change. But then again, it goes back into the policies. The people who are making the bills, that are making the laws, they have no mental health background. So for them, you throw fancy words on a paper, and then it trickle down to us, and we can only do but so much. And then in our profession, you get a certain credential and you're just expected to do it. So for me, that's another piece of my business is I do provide consultation and I provide clinical supervision, because I have noticed that once you get a certain credential, like they call it qualified mental health professionals, or you're here QMHP.
Yes.
Once you get that, go in the schools, go in this home, but then there's no real training because they're big need, we need you, we hire you, you have the credential, and the assumption is you know what to do and they're thrown in. So what I'm trying to do now is go and do more trainings in these community-based programs that's providing these services, because if you're not providing an experience for the clients that you service, that means when I come in, I have an intention of the outcome after I leave you, then we're going to do a disservice.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I go in and I teach you actual practical interventions that's going to actually provide change. Then when you go into these households, having ground rules when you're doing intensive in-home, so you're not a glorified babysitter, but you're actually healing the family unit. I'm going to do an hour with the parent, I'm going to do an hour with the kid, and at the end, I'm going to do a session with the family. When I can break it down in that way, now I'm in here and I'm making change. But a lot of these community-based programs, one, don't have the funding to provide the training.
Right.
Two, don't have because people who are licensed, they're not paying us enough. So like, for example, I was just thinking yesterday to go be a substitute teacher for Suffolk because they just put out their new rates. And I'm like, but I didn't work to get my LCSW to go back to substitute teaching, but I'll make money doing that daily than when I would at a different position. So it's those different factors. So honestly, the mental health world, one, needs funding,
Mm-hmm.
and there needs to be an investment in people that don't just have credentials. I may not have doctor in front of my name yet, but I can provide the training.
Mm-hmm.
I may have, all these different, I may not be a professor at a university, which I want to be, or things like that. It's just giving people an opportunity, actually letting people that have a passion come in, and not just the credentials, not just certain things, and paying people their worth. If someone's going to help, pay them. There's a lot of people that won't help because they're not going to get paid, and there's this expectation that you're going to do it free, but I get it because they don't have the money to pay for the training. So there's a lot of different pieces when it comes to the mental health world, which is why I have stepped out and gone to my own business full time, because I want to be that change. But it's hard if you don't have the funding to fund the change that you know that you need. So then now people are getting the bare minimum. So it's a sad space. It's a really sad space, but I try to do what I can with the resources that I do have.
And amazing, they say that it's not the guns, it's mental health, but yet instead they don't want to put the money into mental health at all. So where do we stand from here,
Right.
Sharon, I'm
but
sorry.
Also, it actually boils down to our elected officials. And if you look at who's on our school boards, and then you look at who's funding the school boards, is our city councils or in the local municipalities on those councils, and the mayors. And if they don't have the bandwidth to realize that this is a problem, then it will never get fixed, or we won't make a step towards that. But one of the things that you hit me with, and I want to talk about, one is you talked about the if I get suspended and I'm a child and I get suspended for 2 weeks or whatever, and you talk about giving those intense or seeing a therapist during those times. One of the problems there's two problems with that, is if I have a documentation that I got that therapy, then later on in my life, when I apply to go in to the military, I've got to get a waiver. And it may stop me from coming into the military because I sought behavioral health or mental health services, even at this young age. Or if God help, if I get on a medication, then I've got to be off it for, I think, a year. I forgot the waiver process, but it's probably be off a year or whatever. And I've got to get this waiver by somebody in the command. The other piece too, even if I wanted to go civil service, I've got to disclose that I sought behavioral health care, and it affects me in my long run. And then so that's one the other problems with disclosing things, and that's why people don't get help.
Yep.
And even though they need it, it's a big roadblock that we need to do something in our society to try to help that.
And we do, and I think we need to have conversations with mental health professionals. Grateful for COVID in the sense that you have more celebrities, right, start talking about mental health. And one person in particular that come to mind is Taraji Henson, right?
Mhm.
I was grateful that she started doing that, but here's the reality: she's not an expert.
Mm-hmm.
But then she's bringing all these people to the platform, and then you have celebrities coming on and speaking, and then you have high-profile therapists and things like that, which is all great. But then what about the people like myself or those in the community that's actually working with the community that's having mental health issues? We're not getting that platform to be able to talk to you about the real of the real, not just fancy word mental health, but what is mental health? So I think if we can have more real conversations in the right spaces, in the right rooms, then you will begin to see those changes. So like those people that put together events for your mayors, for your senators, for your elected officials, reach out to your local mental health professionals and make that a to-do to talk about. So the more you get something around you, the different it's going to be. And it's sad that we do have so many barriers, but it's what I tell people. I'm a radical and I did it my way and I'm still successful.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm very transparent. I'll tell you, like I said, I just had to get a safety plan. Like I'll tell you I have a diagnosis. Like I will tell you that, because at the end of the day, when I make it to where I'm at, nobody can say, but you ain't no Mylira did. Oh, yes, I did.
Yes, Lord. And it will bring it to you as well.
You know, it's sad that that's what happens. It's sad about I have a mental health challenge. Is it going to hinder me from getting into the military? Is it going to hinder me from getting a government job? Because government jobs even ask for those things. And I feel like that is where we need to start. That information is important, but it shouldn't be a crutch. It should eliminate a person's opportunity. So if we changing that mindset, like everybody has a mental health issue. Like everybody deals with anxiety. Anxiety is normal, just what you do with it. Everybody sometimes may have an anger moment, but it's what you do with it. Some people have intense sadness, but they don't know it's depression. We all deal with things. And if we can normalize mental health, if you have a brain, you have a mental health, then those questions and questionnaires will be changed. But because nobody's challenging it, they're just letting it rock because I got to provide for my family. And then now you wonder why so many people do go into the military and they falsify that information. And when they find out, it's an issue. Like we got to do better. We have to do different. And hopefully I can make a change little at a time. By just continuing to come on and talk about it and advocating for it. But I would just say those who are of influence, use your influence for good. Don't get sucked into that culture and not be a voice. Like literally be a voice for those people so that we can make change, so that we can give people opportunities, and don't keep going to the same person. If you are an organization that bring the same person in to do trainings, especially those of government entities, so your social services, your behavioral health services and all that, and there's still no change within your organization, go and do different. Reach out to different. And I'm not saying it's me. I'm not saying pick me, but I'm saying there's other people out here like myself that just need an opportunity so that somebody can see, oh my gosh, like, no, we can really do something different and make changes across the board.
Yeah, I like to say, as we getting ready to close out, for those who don't know or understand the symbolism of your earrings, she is a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And most people that saw those earrings knew that, but for those who didn't, I just told you what that means. That's the simulation of those things. But anyway, before we go off, I want you to mention the books that you have and also event you having coming up in August, Vision Driven 757.
Absolutely. So I have The Art of Just Being Me, which is my first published book. And
I just ordered that book, by the way.
Oh, awesome. I really good. That's where my metamorphosis experience was birthed from. When I write so that I don't have a bunch of mini Myliras walking around. Because I remember when I used to read, I was like, oh, I want to be like Joel Osteen. I want to be like Joyce Myers. And then I tried to pigeon myself and what they told me to do. But the book, what it really is it allowed for you to know what steps I took to become confident in myself. And then it asks you open-ended questions so that you can really dive deep in who you are And then, like I said, that's what birthed the Metamorphosis Experience. My second book is Free Thyself, and that is a guide for survivors of sexual trauma and assaults. I've done some anthology projects. I did Speak Out with a couple young ladies. I've also done Why My Mom with Arthur Q. So if anybody know Quinea Futrell, she's running for school board.
Yeah,
That's
my
auntie. So
friend.
I did her anthology. And then I actually just got blessed to write the preface for the Waiting Room anthology that's created by Debbie LaShawn. And we actually today have a day special for $3.99 for ebook. So be on the lookout on my page for that. And that's for women who God has in the waiting room. Like while you're waiting to fulfill your purpose, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
What you can incorporate. So those are the books that I have written so far. I have some more that I have going on. And now as far as the event for August the 13th, now this is my baby, but I am on the board of Vision Driven 757. I want to shout out the CEO, Lindsay Anderson, and her main focus is to truly go into our community and provide stability for our families. And however we get to do that, that's what she does. She believes in building young bosses. She wants for children to know that you can be a boss even at this age. And what does a boss look like? It doesn't look like using your influence for negative, but how can you make a difference and an impact in the world and your community? So we're doing the Be Well Wellness Fair. It is a spin-off of a back to school event. So we are going to be asking other nonprofits and businesses to collaborate with us to collect school supplies. We're thinking about, donating like 50 of the same supplies so we can really fill their book bags up. But while we're doing that, it's going to be at the Portsmouth YMCA on High Street. It's going to be August the 13th from 2 until 5. And during that time, we're going to have breakout sessions so that the students and the parents can get poured into. But in the gymnasium, we're going to have people who are going to be providing real and time wellness resources and their community resources. So our wellness people, they're going to be actual therapists, life coaches there, financial consultants. We have someone that's going to be there giving manicures. I'm trying to find somebody to do massages real time. Like we want that when you're getting ready for the new school year, you have all your self-care that you need. So when you walk away, you'll have a 20-minute brief session with one of our therapists or coaches or whoever you decide to work with. We have mentors there as well. So then when you walk away, you have your first actual scheduled session when you're walking away. So you'll get it free on that day, but you'll be connected with a therapist, hopefully. So when the school year starts, you have it. Then our community resources is like your before and after school, your dance teams, your martial art places, anything that a kid can be involved in during the school year. So the parents don't have to worry about trying to run and find it, but they can have everything established. So when they walk out with a book bag and wellness resources so they can take care of themselves for the new school year. So we won't start this school year the same way we started last school year.
Very
Okay.
good.
And at this time, the hosts give their final comments and we can wrap it up.
Colonel?
Thanks for coming on. I got a plethora of questions to ask, and we can continue this on, but we'll have to do this at another time. So you have to come back and see us again. But to keep doing what you're doing and get that PhD. Where are you getting the PhD from?
From Regent University in organizational leadership.
Good. So keep at it.
Oh, thank you.
Well,
Next
young
time you
lady.
come, Dr. Green.
Yes.
Mhm.
You overwhelmed me at the conference. You overwhelmed me again today. I am just so blessed that God placed you along my path. I have just been watching you. I've been just applauding all the wonderful things that you're doing for the community, especially at the time when we really, really need to address our mental health issues. Um, Especially with, I told you, I was trying to get my granddaughter to get in touch with you because she's really working on suicide, especially on the college level. A number of her friends and acquaintances have committed suicide, and she's trying to do some things to help to change what's taking place in light of suicides on the college campus. But I appreciate all that you do. I'm energized by you, and I just look forward to many, many more great things that you're going to provide to the community. And we look forward to your coming back on Portsmouth Coffee Talk. Because as the Colonel says, I had so many more questions. My mind has just been running all over the place with things I need to ask. And then, this time just doesn't give us the time that we need to really to look at these matters. And maybe it's something that maybe Portsmouth Talk and Mylira can look at doing some type of a forum for individuals in the community to address mental health issues, because we really have to start doing that. And once again, my heart is with my young folks. We got to do something to help these babies, to help them to realize that there's a life beyond guns and violence. Okay.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to being able to, if it's something we can pull together or some things we can do, let's think about it, because we have to do some things to address some of the needs of the community. I have someone in mind for you, for your massage person. I will have her to get in touch with you,
Okay.
and for your program that's coming up in August as well.
Yeah,
Okay. But once again, thank you so, so very much. I'm really been blessed by your presence on today. Thank you.
you're welcome.
And thank you again, future Dr. Green. And
Yes.
uh,
I'm looking
and
for my
I
cup,
agree.
James.
Said we really need to do something like that. What we do here on Portsmouth Coffee Talk, mental health is a big part of what we do. You see a lot of our programs dealing with that, because a lot of the problems or issues that happen in the world today and locally, dealing with mental health and being transparent about it and being open and getting rid of the stigma in our neighborhoods. And we want to thank, and I also like to mention to our listeners, please, we need your support. Portsmouth Coffee Talk. We want to continue to improve. We want to continue to have the amazing guests that we have every week. And please, as Colonel mentioned, you can send a check if you're still writing checks to P.O. Box 7664, Portsmouth, Virginia, 23704. You can Cash App us at $ PCT 1220, or use your Zelle account to Portsmouth Coffee Talk at gmail.com. And we really appreciate your support over this year, over a year, along with our over 100 videos we have. And by the way, if you want to see more of Miss Green, you can go to YouTube, and she has a multitude of videos dealing with various subjects. And later on, you'll be able to see this video on our YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. So again, we thank you. And Portsmouth Coffee Talk is here for our voice,
Our community.
In our future.
I
All
can't believe we
right.
got it right. I don't
We got
believe
it right.
it.
Yes.
So thanks, everybody. And we'll see you next time. We'll see you Thursday, and then we'll see you next Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you so
Thank you.
very much. Thank you. A minute.